Yeah, hello everyone and welcome to Cave Academy. I'm your host Ross Baxter and today is actually our 9th masterclass. We're certainly getting through them. So thank you everyone for joining us here at our 9th masterclass here at Cave. So we're hosting a variety of free masterclasses throughout the year covering a wide range of topics in the film and game industries. You name it, folks, we're covering it. So stay tuned for all the future masterclasses to come. As always, we just want to thank VES for all the support, so the Visual Effects Society for all the support here at Cave. And if you guys have never checked them out, make sure to check them out at visualeffectssociety.com. So today on the show, we've got an amazing guest for you, an incredible masterclass ahead. We have Jan joining us. We'll be giving you guys a presentation on modeling digi-doubles with scan data. Jan is a 3D artist who has worked in the visual effects and advertising industry with more than 10 years of experience. He's worked on so many amazing films from Venom, Pacific Rim to Avengers Endgame as well. So Jan, thanks for joining us and thanks for coming on.
Thanks you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. So as always, folks, only one rule. So for the second half of the masterclass, we'll be doing a Q&A. So make sure to get those questions rolling. Like I said, if this is your first time here at the masterclass, just post your questions in the Q&A highlighted at the bottom of your screen. So don't be afraid, get those questions rolling and we'll take it from there. So with everything said, I'll now pass you guys over to Jan for today's masterclass. Enjoy.
Cool. So welcome, guys. I will just briefly show you the process, how to make a production-ready model from scan data. Our scan data were provided by Clear Angle Studios, which are, I guess, the leading studio in scanning. They are based in UK and US. And that's it, I guess, maybe in Canada, I'm not sure. But they provided us with this amazing full body scan of Manfred, I guess his name is. And it comes as this package. Let me show you. So what we have here is just an OBJ, which is what you see here in ZBrush. The other stuff which they provided, you always provide, is the camera array, which was used to take the scan. So we have all the cameras in Maya. I will show you that later. So we have cameras, OBJ, raw images from different takes, cross-polarized, polarized, unpolarized. That's mainly for texturing purposes. And then we have a reference, which is just a screen grab of the OBJ. Scale reference, just to double check the scale of your scene. That's just a 10 centimeter cube OBJ. Then we have a texture which fits on this model. This is directly from the photogrammetry. And then we have undistorted images, because when you take the picture, the raw file is distorted by the camera lens. And if you need the photogrammetry model, you have to undistort it. That's what the software does for you. And you need to use those images in Maya, because Maya cameras doesn't have a distortion. So you need to use these for your reference. Let's just open one example. So that's they are slightly darker because they are in ASUS color space. But this is the undistorted image. You can see that it was the undistorted, and it has some parts missing. So that's and then you have XMP data, which are generated from I guess Lightroom or whatever processing software they use for their raw images. So this is just the settings they used for undistortion and color. There you have it. Undistortion, so you can reprocess those raw data into your own color space if you need it. So that's the package from Clear Angle. Thanks for that, guys. And I will start the process of the production model. So this is the unprocessed scan from probably it was processed by a Clear Angle because it's super clean. I guess some areas which were missing in the scan were sculpted, but this is the scan we will start with. before we start to wrap the production mesh in Wrap 3, we usually need to remove the spikes or the areas which we don't need in the mesh, which are actually unwanted during the projection, which is usually eyebrows and eyelashes. And sometimes the hair is getting in the way. You can see some errors in the ears and the stubble on his face. So we need to retouch those from the scan. But what I usually do is because the scan is quite dense, this one I decimated already because the original one had 10 million polygons. So this is half, that's 5 million polygons. So it's not that heavy. But in purpose of the presentation, we actually don't need the super high res. So what I usually use for retouching those, because we don't want to destroy the UVs, you have to be slightly more careful with ZBrush, because sometimes when you delete the geo, it breaks the UVs. So what I usually do is just to use the smooth brush and smooth these areas out as much as I can without destroying the form. So it's just a standard smooth brush. When you can't smooth these peaks, there is sometimes an error in the geometry. So what I suggest is to go to brush and smooth brush modifiers. And there is a minimum connected edges, connected points to the edge. If you pull that to 1, it actually smooths every vertex, because sometimes ZBrush, what the ZBrush do by default is that it protects the border edges, so the smooth brush doesn't work on borders. So this one, this setting, this one actually helps you to smooth out those peaks. And what you can also use is a smooth peaks brush. That also helps quite a bit. And once you have something like that, the best thing is to use a clay, just a standard clay brush, and with a Z sub with holding Alt, you can just remove those spikes and smooth it out again with the standard smooth. And you just remove those eyelashes. It's literally like a few minutes and you're gonna have a clean mesh. And a similar thing is for eyebrows, which is slightly more complicated. Just smooth it out and then go carefully with a clay brush to sculpt it out, because the eyebrows are adding a bit more volume, as you can see here. So you want to remove that volume a bit. So it takes a bit of sculpting, because you need to have that form of the skull underneath, and at the same time you want to remove that eyebrow. So that's the first step. I would clean up the mesh a bit, to remove the stubble and all the hair from ears, etc., etc. I already did that in advance, so we won't spend time doing that. So let me just import the clean mesh. So I will show you the result. It will take a few seconds. Come on. And there we go. There's just literally what I showed you, just a smooth clay, super fast cleanup. So this mesh is now ready for processing in Wrap. So let me jump to Wrap. And I already prepared some setup, but we will start from scratch. I will just copy paste these nodes. Come on. Give it a second. Sorry, guys. Wake up. Cool. Yeah, so this one, and the image. So as a base model, I'm using this. And this is like a example of the production model, which would be used company-wide, even if it's a VFX studio or the game studio. They usually use the same mesh for every human, possibly even a creature, because in that case you can easily copy the animation, copy the skinning, copy textures, copy tons of the blend shapes, tons of stuff. So it's essential to keep the same topology for every model. I'm actually using the one provided with rep3, which is this one. It already has a polygroups for isolating certain parts, which I will show you later. So that's the base mesh we're gonna use. And then we have the scan, which was cleaned, and the texture, which was provided with the scan. Let me just break this connection so it will be faster. Okay, so the first step you want to do is to set the correct scale. So obviously it's different units than our mesh. I would assume that this mesh, the base mesh, has the correct scale which company is using for everything. So I will add with the right click into a node graph. Come on, right click. You can use a transform and connect that to the scan. If you want to isolate the model, you just control click the light bulb in here and it will isolate just that node. Because if you turn on all of them, you will see all of them in the viewport and it's gonna get messy super quickly. So I will display just these two and put 100 here. And we are already in the correct scale. What actually happens with this character is that he is almost pretty exact height of the base mesh. If it's not, if he's like 10 centimeters smaller, you would have to adjust the scale of the base mesh to the height of the character. So our character actually works in 100%. And I will just move him into place. The most important part is the head. So I'm roughly matching the position of the eyes. And yeah, let's call it done. And here comes the main question, which is always with the scans. Do I want to pose the base mesh into the scan pose, or I just need the details to be projected, like his arm, his hands, and his head, and keep the pose of the base mesh? Because what you usually want is to use the scan data and return them to a pose, because that's going to be used for rigging. That's the standard studio setup for rigging. So there sometimes a difference. Sometimes the studio is using just the details projection. That's what I will show you at the end, that I will just reproject the hand onto existing pose. But what we want now is to match the position of the scan, because then we can use the cameras which were provided with the scan for the high-res texture projection. If I use just this pose and the part projected onto it, I will be able just to use the texture which comes with the scan. So it's kind of a pipeline thing. So I will show you right now how to move it into a scan pose, and then at the end you would have to repose the character to the rigging pose of the studio. It sounds complicated, but yeah, it really depends on the studio setup. The only thing what we did right now is that we moved the scan slightly back and scaled it up so our cameras won't fit anymore. And that's usually a problem. With a rep, you can actually save those transforms into a file, which is just a text file, which is saved on a disk. So let me save it into rep resources, and I already have one in there. And Maya is using the Euler angles. So that's just the way how the data is written in the file. And if you compute the frame range, which is actually 0, it will save the file with all the all the transforms we did to the scan, and you can reuse those transforms in Maya to move the cameras accordingly. So this is a file generated by the rep. So you know that the rotation is 0, 0, 0, scale is 100, and we moved it in a z-axis by this number, which corresponds with this. So once you are in Maya, and that's what I can actually demonstrate here. Let me open the scene. You can just literally move those cameras and it will correspond with the scan again. Let me load that. It will take some time. This is the old scan I was using, but you have these cameras in here. You can see that they are super small and they are centered right in the center. And I made a small script which actually reads that text file and reapplies that transform to this null. So once I read it, it scaled 100% and moved that for you. So right now these cameras will correspond with the mesh again, but we'll return to Maya at the end. So finally we can start to rep. Are there any questions, Ross? Just to keep up with the chat.
So far with the questions, we don't have any questions coming through just yet. But
do you have a question?
Oh, for my questions, I could. Well, since you're in Wrap 3D right now, I've got a bunch of questions for you. So, well, you kind of answered this actually right at the start, and it was talking about using Wrap 3D for more than just humans. So, when can you actually use Wrap 3D that's not humanoid? Like, can you like dive into creatures?
Yeah, sure. If you have like an animal topology, you can obviously do that. If you have a similar animal, I would say like a lion and tiger, which is like a feline. Yeah, and you already have a topology and you have a sculpt for the different species, you can obviously do that. It's just literally wrapping one mesh to another. So you can use whatever you want.
Perfect.
Okay, so
like throughout the masterclass, man, like feel free to let me know when you want me to ask you questions, and I'll make sure not to interrupt you.
No worries. Okay, so that was like a first part, I would say, and let's continue. So we all start wrapping right now. Let me just put down the rep node, and this node actually projects the base mesh onto our scan, and it requires certain nodes. So if you roll over the little dot, it will tell you what node it requires. So this requires a floating geo. That's our base mesh. That's the geo we want to change. So let's plug it in. Then the fixed geo, that's a scan. Let's plug that in. And then it requires point correspondence and free polygons floating. This last bit is pretty important. This actually means that polygons selected in this node won't be wrapped, but they will be moved to place and they will keep its volume. So it's like a rigid move. So if, for example, it's usually the skull, which the scalp, which you don't want to project because there is a hair. So it will be moved with the rest of the mesh, but it will keep its shape. So that's the first thing we're gonna set up. So I put down the select polygons node. I will connect it to our base mesh and go to visual editor here. And you can see that there are polygroups already made, which are made in Maya just with the selection sets. And I can pick the polygons which I want to protect. Or I can do it other way and then invert the selection. So I want to wrap the face. I want to wrap hands. I want to wrap fingers. Where are the fingers? Fingers. And then probably part of the arm, ears, not the eyes, ears, and the neck, and the scalp, and the eyes and nostrils. That should stay. And the rest of the body will move anyway into place, but won't be wrapped on on the scan, because we don't want the legs in the shape of pants or the torso in the shape of t-shirt. The only thing I will just, with the control, I will remove these polygons just roughly and invert the selection. So just the unselected polygons will be wrapped right now. So let me connect that here. And we are still missing the point correspondence. So for that, we need to put selection point pairs. And the first node is corresponding with the first node in this. So it's the same way. Go to Visual Editor again, and I can sync views, so it will move in the same manner. And right now I'll just pick the points on the base mesh and the same position on the scan. I don't need that many points. Let me just quickly select few around the eyes, which is usually the problematic area, and fold over here. Just quickly do that. The eyes are usually the problematic a bit. Mouth, 1, 2, 3. You have to be sure that you are putting the polygons in the same places, the points in the same places, otherwise the mesh starts to twist. And ears are usually the crucial point. Come on. Sometimes it's tricky to spin the model around.
Jan, we've got questions flying through, if you're okay.
Sure. I will just be clicking points.
That's okay.
Yes.
So Yusuf is wondering, does the t-shirt get in the way of the wrap because the base model doesn't have any clothes?
No, because right now, that's what I said, that I will protect those part of the meshes, because they will be, I will show you in a minute, they will be moved in place, but they won't be wrapped on the surface. Mm-hmm. So it will keep the volume and shapes of the base mesh, but it will move them into the correct spot. I will show you in just a second. So right now I'm picking the points of the areas which will be actually wrapped. And then I will be picking just the landmarks of the places which won't be wrapped but will be moved. So this should be enough for the face. Let me pick fingers. If you have other questions, just tell me.
Yeah, they keep.
I'm just clicking
right.
points.
So the next one is from Mustafa. He's wondering how to rename polygroups in Maya. I know we've not dived into Maya just yet, but
let me finish the point picking and I will show you.
Because like one of the things, I know you mentioned it already, but the order that you actually do select them is super important.
Yes, because if I put like a fingers in the wrong order, mm-hmm. Let's say I would put the number 34, which is on the thumb, and I will put it on a pinky, it will wrap the thumb on the pinky, so it will just twist the arm.
Okay.
So right now I pick the areas which will be wrapped. Let me just add the elbows in there. I'm doing it like real roughly because it's just demonstration. So if I do it for production, I will be slightly more careful. So now we have all the areas which will be wrapped, and now I will still put the landmarks to the areas which will be just moved in place. So the legs, I want to rotate his feet. And you will see exactly what I mean by that. These meshes will be protected from wrapping, but they will be moved anyway. Maybe.
Jan, Ross is wondering, is there a reason why you've not put a point on the nose?
Because I already tested it, and nose is usually falling into place itself.
Okay.
And I can obviously do that because the way how you usually do it is to run it one time, and you will see which areas are problematic, and then you just add the points in there and run it again.
Right, okay.
And the thing is that what I wanted to mention is that you can actually save those points on the base mesh in here. Right now you can see that the left geo source is user input. That's what I'm doing right now, but you can set it to file, and you can export it into the text file again. So you can just, for the next project, you can literally load it, and those will be in place, and you just click them in a place on the scan, which is sometimes a bit confusing. That's why I'm doing that in certain order. You see that I'm always doing like a clock, anti-clockwise actually. And because I have kind of a system where I put these points, because once I save these, it's like 50 points. I will be always looking, where is the point 40? And it's somewhere here. So I'm usually doing in the same order.
So like when it comes to obviously like the actual software itself, it's kind of down to the algorithm in terms of how powerful it is. Like you don't have to put every point in every main location.
Yeah. Sometimes it actually less is better, because once I start to put points around, especially around mouth, it can create like a little peaks in the polygons.
Right.
If you have too many points in there, it just gets confusing, and you have to dive in all these numbers in there. And yeah, so to start with the less points, with a smaller number of points.
Thanks, France.
Let me. So right now I just picked all the numbers, and let me just connect that. Wrong. Connected here, and let's compute, and it will just run. So we can answer another question if you have some.
Oh yeah, of course. So next one is coming from Angel. He's wondering, is Wrap 3D the replacement for from Rotopo in Maya, or is Maya still used to Rotopo for characters and creatures?
No, it's definitely used, because you have to create a topo somewhere. This is just for wrapping. And to do this in Maya would be super complicated, because it's really tricky to move these amount of polygons in Maya to wrap them. You can do that. You can roughly rotate the arm into place, and then go with the quad draw and relax that on the surface. But you can see that it did the same thing, just in a matter of seconds.
So is there like a personal preference in terms of like similar to what Angel's answering is, because I know there's let me see if it's correct, like ZWrap and ZBrush. So I know they've got a new tool that's coming through.
That's actually the same thing. It's Russian 3D scanner making that tool, and the wrap is the same, similar to the wrap in ZBrush, ZWrap, or how they call it, ZWrap, I guess.
Yeah.
The difference is that in a ZWrap in ZBrush is that you make it in steps. Kind of you just make a first step, make points. The next step, wrap it. Next, it actually reads the masks from ZBrush, so you can mask it. But you cannot like go back. You don't have that node graph basically. So this is more robust solution. If you do it just occasionally here and there, you can use ZBrush. Because it's the plugin is cheaper. But if you do like a more robust, you are more into like integration into the pipelines, semi-automated stuff. Because in Wrap 3 you can also do like a batch processing of blend shapes and tons of stuff, align scans together if you have the face expressions and stuff like that. So the Wrap in ZBrush is the same algorithm, but much simpler.
Yeah, because I've watched lots of tutorials obviously this week, because I was saying to you at the start, like I'm completely new to this, so I'm learning everything the same as everyone who's tuning in. So this is a great opportunity for everyone. As always, folks, keep those questions coming, by the way. Like I said, as always, I've got my questions prepared for you guys just in case. I think that's what we'll do. We'll kind of, just to make it easier for Jan as well, I'll take all your questions throughout instead of having the Q&A just at the end. We can just do it as always as we go along.
Yeah, it takes some time to wrap it, because what it does, it wraps it's done. It actually wraps the base mesh first, then it subdivides that, wraps that again, subdivides that again, and wraps it again. So you get the pretty like detailed and precise projection by adding those subdivision and then stripping them down. So right now we have the projection, and it actually did exactly what I told you it will do. It wrapped the face, it wrapped the hands, but it just moved the body. If you see what it did, it moved that into place. It rotated the feet based on the points I put in, but it still kept the shape. So you have all these in the right position in the scan. Sorry, this one. In the scan, they are in the right position, but they are not wrapped. Yeah, before I start the next section, let me just quickly show you how to make those, name the polygroups in Maya. So let's say you have whatever sphere. And what you want to do is to make a selection and then go to create sets. And I think it's a set of, yeah, you can create a set and you just name it here to whatever, add, and do another set and create set. I think you can actually right click here, create set, and name it to nodes, whatever. And these, once you export the OBJ, these should be saved in a file. So then you just have these selection in a wrap. Because you can do those groups in ZBrush, but they will be named group 1, group 2, group 3. So in Maya, you can just create these selection sets, and these should be sent as groups to rep. So you will have this naming over here based on the naming in Maya. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you very much. I know you kind of transitioned over a wee bit, but Dominic's wondering, so you can save points on one scan model and import the same ones onto a different scan model. Is that correct?
No, not the scan, because these points here on the selection, these points are actually saved as a point on triangle, so that actually assigns the point number to and coordination to the face number. So if the face number changes, the position of the point will change. And every scan has a different poly count and the numbering of vertices. So these, on a scan, it will jump into a different place. However, on the base mesh, it will stay because your topology is still the same on the base mesh. So it makes more sense to save it on base mesh.
Yeah.
You can actually switch it to 3D point, which should save the position in space, but I'm not so sure that this works for, it works for user input, but I'm not so sure it works in a file. I tried that and it always, the point will always in a different position. Mm-hmm. So I haven't make it work for the scan, but I'm using it for the base mesh, definitely.
So before you carry on, I just want to ask, so one of the things that I was, this is going to sound so obvious, but just in case anyone does come across this situation, is when you're actually importing into obviously Wrap 3D and you've got your character maybe is a wee bit offset. I know inside of Wrap you have the power to fix the orientation and actually make sure that everything's nice and clean. Alongside that, is there anything else that you think people should prepare early on just so they have less complications inside of Wrap itself?
In Wrap, you can actually process the scan, you can decimate the scan, you can remove peaks, which are those flying vertices.
Yeah.
But I would rather do it in ZBrush.
Okay.
Because in a scan, it's just not that fast with the vast poly count.
Yep.
It's just faster in ZBrush. And you can do some fixes to where is it? Geo. You can decimate, you can delete the polygons from the scan if you want. You can select them with the select polygons and then delete them. There is a repair geo for the scan if there is like a hole or some manifold, non-manifold edges or whatever, you can repair them. But these fixes tend to be pretty slow.
Okay.
You can fix the symmetry too, but in ZBrush it's just way faster.
Perfect. Thanks for answering that.
Cool. So should we continue then?
Yeah, on you go. Take it away.
Cool. So as you can see, the rep is not always perfect. Let's forget the penetrating body right now. But when I just isolate the rep, you can see the areas around eyes are not perfectly straight. We have some kink over here. This base mesh is slightly low poly. We can do like a higher versions, but it tends to get slower. So it's not perfect. If I display this model again, you can see that even the ears are actually, they went better than before. Yeah, but still here you are losing the volume. So we need to fix that. What I did before, they introduced a new node. I just send it to ZBrush and fix that in ZBrush. But right now, there is a new node called the brush. You can also press the tab key and it will bring this box and you can type in. So there is a brush node, which requires 3 geos, or requires at least 2. Third is optional. The first one is geometry you want to edit. That's the one we wrapped. The second one is a reference. So that's the scan. And the third one is geometry source. And I will explain what it is later. Jump into edit mode. And right now you have a set of brushes you can use to tweak that wrapped mesh to fix all these areas. The most used are these 3, because these 3 actually snap the mesh on the scan. It's similar to Quadro in Maya. So what I can do with areas like these is to go to relax projection and just move over. And it's smoothing that mesh, but it's still snapping it on the scan, or at least it should. Sometimes it struggles and I don't know why. Sometimes it's the problem of the scale we set in the beginning. So what I found out that helps, if you export this mesh with the transform applied and read it as a new one, and it tends to fix these issues. But I would go through and just move these vertices around to fix all those problematic areas. You can see that the volume over here is slightly off, so you would move it into place. You can also inflate that a bit if you want to, and then relax, project it onto the mesh, onto the scan. Yeah, it sometimes gives it problems, but it's usually the scale issue which we introduce over here. Once you're done, you have to press apply, and this will disappear, and those changes will be applied to this node. And the third option, which we used here, and I plugged in the base mesh, and that what it does, it's cloning the geo from the base mesh, and it keeps the position in place. So if something is really screwed up, let me just do this. For example, if something wraps really wrong, you can use a clone, and it will use the information from the base mesh, but it will keep it in place of the wrap. So if I just move the mouse over, it will snap into place where it was in the base mesh, but it will keep the position roughly where the scan was wrapped. And I can now just tweak it with the projection. This is super useful when some areas are really destroyed. Yeah, like if the ear is really like super jagged or whatever, you can just return it back to the shape which it had in the base mesh, and then relax and project it on the scan. So the clone is super useful for fixing areas like mouth corners or eye corners. These yeah, you can see the penetration in here. So if I just relax that a bit, it tends to no, this code. If I clone it, it will copy the positions from the base mesh. So this is the clone is really useful for fixing broken areas which are hard to fix with these other tools. And click again. The other thing which I will fix with the brush are those body penetrations. So if you turn the opacity off, I can move these into place. I will do it more carefully with the production model, but just with sake of speeding up the presentation, I will just do it quickly. I have the mesh already exported, but you have the idea that you will just move it into the scan because the guy is slightly slimmer by holding the shift. Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to ask.
No.
Is there times when because I know you can bring in obviously any mesh, etc. So similar to like brushes, like inside a ZBrush, you can bring in like ear-based meshes or whatever, maybe a nose. Is there times when you decide just to use a particular ear just to throw it in and then wrap it around that ear and then attach it?
Yes, you can do that. Or let me just apply that. Let's just pretend that I finished that.
I'll make you go back for if I apologize.
No. What you can actually do in here, let me find where it is. There is a replace here. You can let's say that you have a character with one ear missing. Let's say the actor was missing one ear, and you already have an ear from a different mesh which you liked. You can just copy the detail into this mesh. If they are roughly in the same position, you can pick the source geometry and the target, and it will merge it into place. So if I select, it should be possible to do it in here actually. If I just make a polygon selection here and pick the ear.
Yeah, because the first time I saw this, I just thought this was incredible. I did not expect something like this to actually occur. Like, it's crazy how far things have gone.
I don't know if it's gonna work, but let's say the source is the ear on the base mesh.
Yeah.
And the target is the ear. Yeah, so what we had before was this. And right now we have this. So we literally copied the ear from the base mesh to the rep one.
That's amazing.
So yeah, you can just give him a different nose. I guess let's just try that, to be honest. Let's just select the nose and see what's gonna happen.
Because I think that's the game changer, like what you said right at the start.
It's kind of funny, but yeah.
Yeah. All the things you could do, because the fact that you just need one base mesh for all these different characters is insane. Like, it's just
with this you can create like a random character by giving him that you have a library of noses, or you have a library of already wrapped characters. You can just replace the ears, mix it with different eyes and different noses and different mouth. Yeah,
perfect. Thanks for diving into that, man.
So let's pretend that he has funny. Let's pretend we already finished the wrapping. Let me just go through my graph which I created before, which is exactly the same thing. Let me just run that again so we have a clean mesh. If there is another question, I can answer that now before it.
Yeah, sure. So the next question is a bit different to the topic that we're talking about, but it's a great question. So thank you, Ross. He's wondering, would you ever use the texture to check the edge flow and conform well?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's I actually used that before for certain projects.
Mm-hmm.
That you can just paint the polygroups, like where the edge loops are for the eyes, where the nasal label for this and everything, and you can apply it to the mesh. And especially once you are in the brush, you can just move those edge loops in place. You can see the texture. If I don't know if I can. No, you can connect the texture in directly in the base mesh, so you can see that texture. So you can easily move that in place. That's super useful. And what's also super useful once you are processing the scans or wrapping the scans of the face expressions, and they will put the marks on the face, the little dots. So we will always pick the same areas, and the blend shapes will wrap accordingly to those marks. So that's perfect. And what wrap actually has, we can probably make another masterclass about that. But it has two other wrap nodes. One, this is a standard geometry wrap. Then there is a blend shape wrap, which actually learns from the basement from the blend shapes you actually did before. So it creates a difference between the neutral mesh and the face expression.
Yep.
And then applies that to your new neutral mesh and the face expression. So it kind of estimates where those vertices should be, and then it wraps. So you need way less points. You can actually need just 3 points for mouth open, which is amazing. You just pick 3 points and give him a different mouth open shape you did before, and it will estimate the shape and wrap it. So it saves a massive amount of time. And then there is the last wrap node, which is an optical wrap. And it's usually made for face expressions, and it needs the texture to be applied to the scan. So you have a scan of a neutral face and then face expression, both with texture. And then you have your neutral mesh with projected texture. That's what I will do at the end. And it calculates the difference between the movement of the pixels. So you don't need to pick the control point. It actually looks through the camera, finds the pixel on one mesh, then finds the same pixel on the other mesh and move those together. So it's super precise for the blend shapes. So it just literally picks the areas on the image and aligns them together. But that's made for blend shapes, and that's out of the scope of the masterclass. But we can have another one for that.
Yeah, that'll be great. That'll be perfect. Thanks for diving into it.
So this is the mesh I wrapped before. It still doesn't fit in the body perfectly, but that's all right. At least the face is clean and the hands are clean. But what I wanted to show you is transfer texture. Right now our mesh fits the scan, and the scan can have a texture which was provided by the photogrammetry. It will take some time to read because it's in 16K, but this is the texture. And we can project the texture from the scan to a new wrapped base mesh. And that's a texture transfer node. It needs the source, which is the scan. It needs a target, which is our new geo, and needs the polygon selection, which are just, it's for exclusion. So I excluded all the clothing. And what it calculates is the texture. This is the UVs of the base mesh. Then you can extrapolate the texture to fill in the gaps. So it will fix the seams if there are any, and you save that. So for the games, you usually use just this projection because you don't need that extra fidelity or the massive resolution which you can get from the raw images later on in Mari or Maya or whatever. So if you are okay with the texture from here, it's more than enough. As I said, it's 6K, so the resolution on this is pretty decent. And we have a full body scan. If we have just a head scan, it will have massive texture, and you have a vast amount of detail in here. So it's super useful to have the texture, even for applying like the details in ZBrush.
When it comes to the,
yep.
I know you probably hear this question all the time, but is there a limit? Because I know you said there's times when you transfer over to ZBrush. Is there like a limit to how much Wrap 3D can control in terms of poly count, etc.?
For the scan, I never had a problem with massive amount of polygons. Like I
Perfect.
said, this has 5 million. On the other hand, for wrapping, you don't need a lot of detail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually better to have a lower resolution of the base mesh, as we has in here, which results in less errors in the wrapping. So I will show you what I usually, and it takes less time. And you could see that it's still quite long completion, and even though it's quite a low poly mesh. So what I usually do is just wrap it in here, and then bring it to ZBrush, subdivide it, and project the detail. That's actually the step which follows right now. So what I have is exported OBJ with the wrap base mesh and the texture in case I want it, and also the transformation which I can transformation of the scan which I can later use in Maya. Right now we can jump into ZBrush, and I will show you how to project the details. So this is the clean scan we used before, but it's in the wrong place. We also need the scan align OBJ with this transform. So I exported both, and let me import the wrap. Out. Base mesh. That's what we wrapped, and align scan. It will take some time.
When it comes to what you're saying right at the start, so you're saying obviously A pose is the go-to. Is there a reason why A pose over T pose? Like, what's the main reason?
It actually depends on the studio, but the A pose is preferred because of the deformation of the shoulder.
Okay.
Because when you put the arms up, your shoulder is kind of compressed. Your deltoid muscle is compressing against the clavicle, and it's basically deformed. So the A pose is the most relaxed pose.
Okay.
So it's way better for rigging, muscle simulations or whatever. So I don't know why they. The T pose is like a pose which is always the same. So if they record the mocap, they always do the T pose because it's like 90 degrees. Once you tell the actor to make an A pose, every actor will do like a 30 degrees, 40 degrees, 50 degrees.
Yeah.
So they are asked to do the T pose because you can easily check if it's 90 degrees. But the riggers always prefer the A pose with the fingers slightly bent.
Yeah.
So they are not deformed either. So it's kind of a relaxed pose, and sometimes they even tend to bend the elbow slightly, so it's like all the muscles are kind of relaxed.
Thanks for diving into that. But
right now,
on you go. I was just going to say, as always, folks, keep those questions coming. We still got plenty of time, and we'll take it from there. Perfect.
Cool. So let's start with the projection in ZBrush. Just forget about the body, which doesn't fit. He's not that muscular. You can see that it still doesn't fit perfectly, like in here, on the forehead. So the first pass I do in ZBrush is to use a Z-project brush and just go over the mesh, and it will snap your selected tool to the tool underneath. So you just literally there is a slight difference, but later on it makes the important difference, which can help you later on in the process. So if you just sculpt over, you can see it's snapping down on the mesh, but it's not bringing the geo up. So if you want to bring it up, you just hold Alt and it will start to, sorry, I just selected the mesh. And it will start to bring those polygons up. So I will just go over entire face with the Z project brush to snap those points into correct places. Sometimes the ears will make a mess, like here. You have to be careful with Z project because it just tends to project the mesh just on the normal. So if I would try to do that here, it will start to deform the geo. You have to be careful, usually always facing that towards you. So that's the first step, just slightly fixing. It's kind of similar stuff you do with the brush node in Rep, but just go over the mesh and snap it into place. Once that's done, I subdivide the model a few times. I think that 4 times should be enough. It depends how much detail you want, how detailed is your scan. And now I can project the detail from the scan to our base mesh. Before that, I always store the morph target. We'll show you why later, and create a layer. So the projection will be in the layer. And I will also mask just the head so it's not projecting the rest of the body. And I can project all. That will take a few seconds.
So as that's projecting, what I could do is ask the next question. So Mustafa is wondering, so this goes back into Wrap 3D, I believe. He's wondering, how do you stabilize your base mesh when wrapping facial expressions as scans used to move a little bit in each expression?
Yeah, first of all, you have to align the scans together. Because the actor will probably move his head slightly, so you have to align the scans together with the places which are actually not moving. So you are making face expressions, and these are, I guess, this part of the ear is not moving. The lower part of the ear is slightly moving when you're speaking or moving your jaw. Yep. So you will align your mesh accordingly to this point, the point on the other side. And I found out that the end of the bone on the nose is the point which is not moving almost at all, except for the frown. So these are the areas which are usually not moving. So we will align those scans together. There is a node in the Rep for that. It's called rigid scan, rigid alignment, rigid alignment. So we will give it 3 points that it will just move that into the place based on those points without wrapping. Or you can use that blend shape wrapping, which actually has that alignment point already here. So it will align and wrap in a round node. Yeah, so you have to align those scans first, and then you start wrapping. And obviously it will still make problematic areas, especially where the head should not move then, because you are fixed in these places, but the connection, the neck will be sometimes wrong. So you have to fix it by hand, because even though the actor should have the fixed head somehow, so he's not moving the head up and down and left or right, but it will still happen. So the neck will be usually off. So you have to fix it by hand.
Does that then tailor into, I guess, because like I said, I'm still learning all this stuff as well. So does that then tailor into the batch processing as well?
Yes, that's what you can do in a Rep. That's why the sequence, the slider, the time slider, sequence slider is here. You can load how many OBJs you want. So you just select like 10 OBJs, and those will be loaded here, and they will reload every time you switch the frame number.
So it literally just does the one base mesh and then applies it for all of them, basically.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Then when you press the calculate, that's why. You can turn on the auto compute.
Yep.
Or so that will compute every frame then, or in here somewhere. Yeah, there is a compute all, and that will render like all the rep nodes if you have multiple of them, and if you turn on the auto compute and you compute the frame range, it will do that for every frame, so it will automatically wrap it every time. Just the brush node won't work, obviously, because that was a manual work, but the wrap will calculate every time.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so, and you can also save these point pairs. You have to save them as a sequence. That's what I mentioned before about the placing on the scan, that it will change every time with the different phase numbers. So you have to, for every frame, you have to pick those points and save them into the file. Otherwise, it will recalculate them and they will start jumping around the face. So that's why you have to save it for the scan with the frame number, and it will automatically read it for the frame from the file.
Thanks for that. Yeah, much appreciated.
So yeah, so that's for the batch thing, and obviously that optical wrap is meant for batch. That's the optical flow wrapping to give it a batch of face shapes, and it will start wrapping them accordingly based on the texture. Yeah, but that's everything. Or you can actually have can have completely different. If I take a look at the gallery, they have just one scan now. But you can have like 3 different heads or body shapes, and you can wrap them in one go because you load all of them at once, and you can just pick the points. Yeah, you can definitely do that.
Well, I was going to say that's on you go.
You just have to remember that you have to save the point, because the polygon numbers will change every time, and the rep won't remember that when you pick them. You have to export it every time.
Yep.
Cool. Let's go back to the projection. So this is the projection. You can see that's quite a wild one. And why I save the morph target is that then once the projection is done in the layer, so I can turn that off and on, I will switch the morph target so it disappears and choose the morph brush. Where is it? Morph brush, and start painting that projection back on. Come on, I have to turn on the layer, sorry. Now switch the, come on. Yeah, that sometimes happens with the layers. So let's do that again. Sorry about that. Let's turn on the layer, store the morph target, turn on the layer. Now it should work. Yeah, that's just a ZBrush mumbo jumbo as usual. ZBrush is not a pipeline friendly, but when you know the way around it, it's great. So right now, my projection is saved as a morph target, and with the morph brush, I can just paint that back. So I will avoid those spiky areas, all the hair and everything. So I'll just paint it in place. And you can see that I'm literally painting just the detail in, because I matched the shape of the head pretty nicely. So it's just projecting the detail. Let me just quickly go around. I can be sloppy because I will show you later on why. Yeah, the mouth usually breaks, but we don't have time to properly mask that and go around it. But you have an idea that you have to pay attention into these areas a bit more.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you if you had to do that separately, because I wasn't quite sure, because I've seen people mask them out differently.
Yeah.
Maybe it's situational based.
No, I will show you what I meant. You can still see that I have the problematic areas here, like the hair and yeah, the ear. Yeah, so right now I got rid of that super spiky areas. And I will just turn off the layer again and store the morph target again, enable the layer. And right now I will just paint off these areas with the morph brush. I will just reduce the intensity and slowly go over those and just erase them. So I will erase these areas now. And I'm going with a low intensity of the brush because there are some areas I want to keep. I see that these ears, you definitely don't have that bumpy ears, but you still have some detail in there. So I will go with low intensity and just erase that noise from there. I'll probably erase that noise from his like jaw too, because that's usual problem of the scan, that you have the facial hair in there. But we are almost clean. Just roughly, but you have the detail projected pretty cleanly right now. Let's just take a look at the nose. And now I can go back to the mouth and fix that. Yeah, if you cannot reach those areas, you can just go down in the subdivisions, and morph target should still work. Now you can just hide part of the model and just take these back. Yeah, what I actually forget to do is to turn on the backface mask when I was using the Z Project brush. That tends to do these problems. That was a user error. So yeah, you have an idea. I will just go over that and remove those. Yeah, it created the other spikes, but yeah, you have an idea how to fix that with the morph.
Thanks for showing that, man. Much appreciated.
Yeah, so as it was full body scan, we don't have that much of a detail in the face.
Yeah.
But if you have just a head scan, it will be much more resolution in there. Yeah, so later on, I would go with just with the scalp brushes and fix the shapes of the skull a bit. As you can see that there is a slight step in the in the skull, and that's just about sculpting right now. And I would also go with some alphas, or I have some scanned alphas here. These are some samples from texturing XYZ. And I would just fix the areas or fill in the areas which were missing the skin detail because of the hair or whatever, or just the scan was not detailed in there enough. So I probably would do that in another layer. So right now I can lower that down if I want to, or create another layer and go with the hand sculpted detail, like the alpha detail over that face to fill in the gaps. I wouldn't use just one alpha for that for sure, but you have an idea just to fill those empty areas. I would also go with another layer and probably with a damp standard brush to add a bit more detail and volume into wrinkles, like slightly sculpt the wrinkles in there, just to get a bit more depth, which wasn't taken from the scan. And this is the like a artistic approach, just looking at the reference and adding a bit more depth especially into wrinkles, or with the inflate brush, adding a bit more volume to the certain places like the eyelids, whatever. But yeah, that's how to project the final detail. So we have a new topology with the projected scan on the animation mesh, production mesh, and we already have a base of the texture, of the displacement, normal, bump, whatever. So that's how you project the detail in ZBrush. What you can also do is take the projected texture into Photoshop and do like a quick high pass displacement and project that into ZBrush into another pass. But I tried it for this character and doesn't make much sense as there is not enough detail in the face. But if you have super high res scan or super high res photos of the face, not the photos, sorry, super high res this projected texture with enough detail, you can use that in Photoshop and project it in ZBrush again to get a bit more fidelity into the texture. So that's the ZBrush projection, and also, and that's the last part I will show you in Maya actually. So if there is another question before we jump into Maya.
So I've actually got a question of myself, if that's all right.
Final cleanup, yeah, sure.
So this is just to kind of give people a bit more of a understanding of, I guess, more production base. So when would, I know this is probably a big question, but is there a particular time in the production where people who are maybe new to the industry will get assigned this? Like who kind of gets assigned this job in industry, or is it purely just based off the experience?
No, I guess it's based on the experience. As you could see, that's kind of up to that ZBrush part, it's kind of a manual, just a manual labor.
Yep.
Because you don't have to understand much of anatomy and all that stuff around until you bring it to ZBrush and start fixing the areas which are obviously wrong, because this scan is quite super clean and perfect. That's usually not the case. So you will have noisy scans with quite a bit of errors, and you have to either fix these first or later, and that's where the experience comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say you have to fill in all the because the character had the hair covering his forehead, and you have to resculpt the forehead. Or you could see that on when I was removing the eyebrows, you have to like fill in the eyebrow area by hand. So that's where the experience kind of comes from.
Yep.
But all the wrapping stuff that could be made by juniors, to be honest.
So there's not that much, how can I say, like when it comes to, I guess, like the other question I can tailor off from this question is like, is there any kind of fundamental techniques the beginners kind of need to know to kind of make this transition into Digi-Doubles more smoother? Or is it?
It always helps if you know the anatomy for sure.
Yep.
And definitely the software knowledge, that's obvious thing. And yeah, once you learn it how to do it for one time, it will kind of be similar every time. And then you can get into more complicated way to how to like semi-automate all that stuff, because that's what I also want to say, that if you take a look into that rep file, like a project file which is saved on a disk, it's called .rep, but actually when I open it in a Sublime text, it's a JSON file, and a JSON file is human readable, and it's also easily readable. Let me just switch that. Where is it? JavaScript, JSON. It's easily readable by Python, for example. So you can, without opening rep, you can actually edit this file to pick up a completely different scan, pick up completely different base mesh, use the same points, or ask the user to input points, and it could be processed by a farm, for example. Because when you just look at these, let me find, for example, this creates the load geo base mesh, which I created. It gives it a path to the OBJ. It gives it a base transform. So you can literally edit these and read completely different data. So that's where it can get complicated when you start to process all that, or when you start to automate the process. And it can also get a bit more complicated with the face expressions, because the neutral face is one thing, but with the face expressions, it's completely different story.
That's
Because the every time the face expression, even though you have a fact sheet and somebody is checking that the face expression should look like that, it's not usually perfect, and you have to tweak it by hand or fix it by hand. So that's where literally the skill is entering the field, because you have to literally sculpt the face expression or fix it from scratch. So the neutral pose is one thing, face expressions is completely different story. That's why the companies usually have like the dedicated artists for faces and face shapes. That was the Vimmel. You had a Vimmel on the masterclass, and he specialized in the face shapes.
So, like,
for example,
when it comes to, I guess, like carrying on this theme, when it comes to like the software side of things, I know film's very Maya orientated,
yeah,
but I understand that there's many other scenarios. Like I was watching a video the other day, and they're using Blender, etc. I know it's down to personal choice, but is there a reason maybe you're in Maya, or is it just that's your personal preference?
No, it's just because it's an industry standard, to be honest. And when I'm working with right now as I'm freelancing, and when I'm working with the studios, they usually require Maya because it's just an industry standard.
Thanks for answering that. So we've got one more question, and then I'll let you carry on with the last parts. So Angel's wondering, do only character artists work on these scans, or would asset modelers get these tasks as well?
It really depends on the studio. For example, in DNEC, we were like a modelers or even a generalist. I was myself a generalist making models, textures, look dev, even for hard surface stuff. So it really depends on the studio if they dedicate it to just solely character artists or to the modelers. So yeah, it really depends.
Thank you, much appreciated. Thanks for all the questions, folks. What we'll do is, obviously, I'll let you finish off your work, but I will base it around the questions coming through. I've still got a few more questions on my side of things.
Yeah.
And
this will take like 5 minutes, and that's fine.
That's all right. Take your time, man. We can call it in 15 minutes then, and
cool.
We'll see what happens. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So we are in Maya, and this is a scene. Let's forget this. Doesn't matter. This is a scene which comes from the photogrammetry with all the cameras. If I drag and drop the camera, I have the image planes assigned to that. It takes some time because they are massive. But we have image planes corresponding with the camera. You can see that these are undistorted, as I told you before. And I have a scan which correspond. Just glued my camera. Let me just pick this different one. Come on. Yeah, and I have the camera which corresponds, and the scan which corresponds with the scan. I have a shortcut for hiding the polygons, so we can easily check the image plane underneath. So what I want to do now is to finish off the production model, which is in ZBrush right now. I want to reapply those offsets I made in rep and saved in the text file. And as I showed you before, I have a script to do that. So right now they are in the same place as my wrapped scan, and they have a scale and a slight offset in the z-axis. And I can import the OBJ, the wrapped OBJ, wrapped. Ideally, I would import the one from ZBrush, but it doesn't matter right now. Let me hide the scan and show you one issue. So we have a scan, we have a wrap base mesh, and once I start looking through the cameras, come on, you see that it doesn't fit perfectly. Actually, this one looks Wait a second. Sorry. Let me just freeze the scale because. Come on. Freeze the scale. Come on. I have autosave enabled. Come on. Yeah, freeze scale. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, it should fit. We just crank up the exposure slightly so we will see what's happening. But when I turn it off and on, you can see that in some places, even though we wrapped it perfectly on a scan, it still doesn't fit 100%. You can see especially around the areas of the ears and the nostrils and the eyelids. And that just shows how imperfect the photogrammetry can be. We fitted the scan perfectly, but it doesn't fit the photo 100%. It depends if you really are asking for the 100% match. But if you're making hero digi-doubles, these small details matter. So you need to fix that. And what we usually do is to assign a shader which projects the same image which we are looking through the camera, which this one definitely is not. Let me just pick the, let's say you want to use this. Yeah. And I have just a projection shader with the same texture which we are using in the camera. So right now you can see the mesh which is there, but you are kind of looking through the mesh, and you are not distracted by, if I just show the wireframe, you are distracted by the stuff which is on the other side. That's why I'm using a projection, because I can see just the visible polygons. And right now, when I display the wireframe, you can see that certain areas are not fitting perfectly, like here. It could be error of the wrap, but usually it's error of the photogrammetry. From this angle, it actually looks pretty decent. But yeah, here we are losing the volume on the ear. Same here. So it's like tiny details. But what I would do right now is just to go through the entire mesh and do slight tweaks here and there. And obviously, right now I'm fixing just a view from one camera. So what I have to do is just to pick a different one. Let's say A10. Let it read. Yeah, that was the perfect one to pick. Let's choose. Let's pick the different one. Which one is that? A2. So I have to pick the corresponding texture in A2. Let me just copy the path from the image plane, camera project, image, and pick the correct camera. Here it's A2. Right now we are looking through the camera, projecting the same texture. That looks pretty decent. You still see that there is not enough volume here. So right now I will go through entire mesh and focus on the areas, as I mentioned before, especially around eyes. This is wobbly because of the bad wrap, but there is a slight loss of volume in the corners of the eyes. You can see it over here that this edge is like a millimeter or two in a different place. So you would need to, let's reuse the radius. You would need to move that down slightly. And let's take a look on the on the rest. The mouth, yeah, see that little, there is just a tiny little offset, but that makes the model perfect then. And as I said before, it's usually eyelids, ears, nostrils, and corners of the mouth, which are losing the volume, even though you are perfectly wrapped on the photogrammetry. If I double check, I can actually try to double check it with the photogrammetry model. If I hide that and display the scan, it will be slightly hard to see because I'm pumping up the exposure because of the ACES is pretty dark in the viewport. But so this is a scan, and if I just move the mouse at the edge of the nostril, you can see that it's not 100. If I jump back and forth, you can see that this shape is completely different in the photo and in the scan. And that's sometimes a problem of photogrammetry. You have to like double check, and the nose is like this is quite a lot of difference. And we can take a look at the ear. See that there is a loss of volume. You can see that there is a slight kinky in the scan, which is not in the in the photo. So even the scan is not 100% perfect. And the last thing I want to show you is just quickly how I would approach modeling the clothing. And that's super simple. Just put the scan as a live model and then start Quadro. Come on. Priest, cool. And then just start to make literally a retopo of the cloth with as regular topology as you can, because for example the t-shirt would be simulated, so I wouldn't do wrinkles in the mesh. I would just do super simple square topology, follow the seams. I would place the edges where the seams are. Just don't go quickly around the mesh with the resolution, super low resolution like this, subdivide it, snap it into place again, subdivide it, snap it into place again. And with just literally with a Quadro, for this example, we would use the Quadro, or you can make the clothing in Marvel's Designer if your pipeline wants it. But if you are asked to match it perfectly, you will just do it with Quadro. And I already made a quick t-shirt which is wrapped to the scan. It could benefit from one more subdivision because it's not catching up all these detailed wrinkles. So if I subdivide it one more time, where's the smooth? And I have the live mesh underneath. It's a bit slow, I don't know why. And go to, come on. And go to Quadro and go over the mesh with soft selection, holding shift. It will just relax those polygons on top. To be careful about the seams because it will destroy the seams. Just quickly go around and it will snap it into the surface. And it will introduce a bit more detail into it. So this would be perfect match. If you do it with the Marvelous, you will have the perfect topology, but it won't match the scan at all. So it really depends on the need of your pipeline. And you can take this t-shirt together with these cameras into Mari and project the texture from these cameras onto the shirt, or for sure you can take the base mesh into Mari together with the cameras and project all the textures, and you will have production ready asset, not just the model, but you will have perfect textures, or you can use the texture which was provided by the photogrammetry and reproject it together with the scan, with the base machine wrap. So yeah, guys, that's kind of everything I wanted to quickly show you. I'm sorry if you rushed too much. I hope that you could understand the process at least a bit.
It was absolutely amazing presentation. So thanks for everything.
we can answer some questions. In the meantime, I will just put his breath into the t-shirt.
That's awesome. No, but thank you for everything that you showed us today. So much appreciated. So everyone, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to fire them through just now, and we'll get through them.
Yeah, and I guess it doesn't have to be related to the Digi-Doubles. You can ask anything right now.
Yeah, it's not a problem at all. So William's got a question. He's wondering, do you still have to transfer attributes from the version of the production model from ZBrush back to the model used in Maya for other aspects of the pipeline?
What I usually do is to literally blend shape the wrapped thing onto base mesh in Maya. So I would have a base mesh which comes from pipeline with all the attributes they used, with all the UVs, or if there are another custom attributes applied to the mesh. I would take the base mesh from ZBrush and apply it as a blend shape, because that will just keep all the information on the model which is in the pipeline, and it will just change the shape, and that's it.
Perfect.
So that's the cleanest thing you can do. It will keep everything, and you just blend shape that. I actually have a tool for that which I wrote myself. You can download it on my website if you want. It will just blend shape the OBJ onto an existing mesh.
And like so everyone knows, just speaking of his website, you guys can find him at janjinda.com. He also does a YouTube channel as well. So if you guys want to go check out his tutorials, make sure to do so. Lots of great content over there. So next question coming through is from Christopher. He's wondering, will it be possible to see this presentation afterwards? Oh yeah, of course. You said I've missed some parts because I was working at the same time. Yeah, it's not a problem at all, Christopher. So all these masterclasses are recorded. So trust me, you won't miss anything. It goes up to the website at caveacademy.com under masterclasses. And you can also see all the past masterclasses as well. And also, if you guys are joining us here for the first time with Jan, he's also going to be coming back as well in September. He's going to be teaching a class on character art, am I correct? So it's going to be great having him back as well.
Introduction to character modeling. I can actually show you my creation for the course. Yeah, you can continue with other questions, and I will just load the.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem at all. So
the model.
When it comes to questions, so this is going to be, I guess, the main question I tend to ask everyone when it comes to doing these is other go-to resources, etc. So obviously we've been speaking about scan data today and stuff. Is there any websites that you go to get these models, etc. from? And yeah, like what's your main resources that you use?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can go to 3D Scan Store.
Okay.
Yes, it's called. And they have tons of scans. I think they actually have few of them free, so you can test everything if you want to. But yeah, they have a massive amount of scans in here, and they have a personal license for $70, or they have the business for commercial projects. And you can either buy like cleaned up versions with already applied topology, all the projections which I showed you. Yeah, you can see that if you have a decent scan, you can project that like insane detail.
Yep.
But this is just a head scan. We use the full body scan, so that's like a completely different story. But yeah, the 3D Scan Store, they're perfect for
There's also
perfect source.
What's it called? So you showcased. I know you said mid presentation, was it Wrap 3D has like the library? so you can use the library resources as well?
That's actually in the wrap. When you go to gallery, you have all the base meshes which you can try. You have some fixed shapes, blend shapes here, which you can play with. You have the example here for the optical wrap. Yeah, so you can have a play with these. And yeah, as I said, when you look here for the free examples, they definitely have some somewhere. And they even have a bundle of expressions, so you can try that expression wrap.
Legit treasure chest of meshes.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. But yeah, like I said, Jan's going to be helping us coming back in September, and like I said, he's got a video showcase for you guys, so you can see what to expect, and you can also check out the description on the website itself. So make sure to check out. But we'll showcase some shapes now.
Just a
enjoy.
Quick video. I don't know if the audio will go through, but let's give it a try.
I'll let you know if it's too loud, but we should be fine.
That's the finished one. Let's play this one first. So basically, there will be intro to character modeling, and I will be showing that, demonstrating that on this amazing concept from Sebi, which he did for us. It will be actually a story of two astronauts. The first astronaut about the monkey, which comes from America, and the dog, which comes from Russia. And this is me just doing a first block out of the character. And we will start with the block out, then move into the production model, make the UVs, some sculpting, etc. So it's an 8-week. I think it's 8-week course. You can find the details on the Cave Academy website. And together with the course, we also made it as a production model. So at the end, there will be a rigging course, animation course, and we should actually have some short films at the end someday. So we approach it as a full production. So we had calls with Chris, who is the director and the supervisor of the entire thing. So I will be also uploading like these feedback sessions, which are priceless, and you rarely get that with the tutorials. So it's literally like example of the production, how it works, how the review sessions are, how the dailies are.
Incredible.
So that was the block out, and this is kind of a final model, which I finished like a few days ago, literally.
Congratulations! That looks really cool, man. So thanks for doing this.
So this is gonna be like an end result of the course.
Perfect. So, like you said, folks, make sure to go check out. You can find it on the website. As always, if you guys have just joined us late, like I said, throughout the series, these are recorded. So if you guys happen to join us late, you can check it on the website under masterclasses. Most importantly, make sure to go check out Jan's work. Like I said, he's got his YouTube channel, just simply his name, and it's the same for his website, janjinda.com. And you can figure out everything that he does over there, including his tutorials, as always. So non-stop content for you guys here at Cave Academy. Our next masterclass is actually, once again, we've got 5 this month. So this is the 3rd of 5. So make sure to tune in. We've got a director coming on next Thursday, who's going to be talking about Battlesuit, where we have our first director join us to talk about his latest project. So if you guys want to hear about the latest developments in Unreal Engine, etc., and everything to do with filmmaking and storytelling, join us on the 23rd of July here at Cave. So thanks once again, Jan. It's been a pleasure having you here.
No worries.
And
thanks for inviting me again.
It's been great. And like I said, folks, we'll see you guys in the next masterclass. And thanks for all the questions. So bye for now.
Yeah. Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye for now.
Bye.